You probably never thought you would see another Who Wants to Be a Megabit video on my channel, but here's one with Clement from AlgoExpert. And if you want to go even deeper on web development with us, I did a video over on his channel where we went through the top 10 tips for web developers. It's a super great video, so I highly recommend you check it out. And with that said, let's get started. So welcome back to Web Dev Simplified, everyone. You may recognize this game if you're a longtime follower. This is my Who Wants to Be a Megabit game, and I'm bringing it back for Clement. So Clement, do you want to introduce yourself real quickly before we jump into the game?
Sure. So my name is Clement Mihulescu. I have a YouTube channel about software engineering where I kind of focus on coding interviews, web development, working as a real software engineer. And otherwise, I run AlgoExpert, a technical interview prep website.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah, you've seen one of those AlgoExpert guys. He is the reason for it. So you can either love him or hate him, whatever it is you want to do. Anyway, also real quick, I want to explain the rules. Essentially, there's 15 questions. The first 5 are going to be pretty easy. Next 5 are a little bit harder. And the last 5 are pretty tricky. Everything's multiple choice, just like the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire game. 50-50, he can use one time to get rid of 2 of the wrong options. And if he uses the Google hint here, he can essentially use Google for 15 seconds to try to figure out what the answer is. And with that said, we're going to jump right into the very first question here, which is which of the following is not a real programming language? We have Gem, Rust, Elixir, and Lua.
Okay, so this is much more stressful as the competitor rather than watching it. But here, I'm pretty sure it's going to have to be Gem because I know that Elixir and Rust are programming languages. Lua, I'm pretty sure is like this language that you can do for like video games. I remember for like World of Warcraft, there was something with Lua. So I think I'm going to go with Gem, final answer.
Good choice. Yeah, Lua is like a scripting language used a lot in video game related stuff, so I'm pretty impressed you knew that. All right, which of the following will return true? We have object.isArray, array.isArray, type of the array syntax equals array, or is array with the array.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure that object.isArray is not a thing. IsArray, I think so. IsArray just as a function would be undefined unless you've declared it, or it would throw like a runtime error. Type of brackets, I think, is object. So I'm pretty sure that this is one of those weird JavaScript things. It's array.isArray with the function call afterwards. Final answer.
Yep, you're correct. This one is a little bit of a trick one if you're not aware of that. An array type is actually object, which is like the most dumb JavaScript thing in the entire world. It's like that same thing with not a number is never equal to not a number, which is just,
It's the most confusing thing ever.
I know. All right, number 3, you're doing pretty good so far. List the following languages in order of release. So I want the oldest language first and the newest last. And we have Java, C++, C#, and then JavaScript.
Ooh, okay. So let me see if I can, so I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but let me see if I can kind of like reverse engineer it. So I know that JavaScript comes after Java. So it already can't be the third answer. Oh, and JavaScript definitely also comes after C++, but you have it after that in all of them. I really don't know if between the others. And by the way, what happens if I get a wrong answer? We just like keep going.
Just keep going. Yep, all the way. It'll just be whatever percentage you get at the end.
Okay. So I really don't know. I feel like C++ is the oldest, but I'm really not sure if this is correct. My intuition would tell me C++, Java, C#, JavaScript, but it's very possible there's something wrong. I think I'm going to go with that as my final answer.
So close. You just had JavaScript and C# slipped. I was actually a little bit surprised when I was doing this research. I figured that JavaScript would be newer than C#, but C# actually came out like 5 or 6 years after JavaScript. And then Java and JavaScript are really close together within like, a few months of each other, a year. And then C++ is like 20 years older than Java, so.
The oldest one, yeah.
Yep, by far. Yep, that was really close though. Yeah, this one, I was a little confused even when I was doing the research. I expected it to be what you guessed.
Damn.
Okay, here we go. This one's a little tricky. How many threads does JavaScript code run in? We have 8, 2, there's no set number of threads, or 1.
Ooh, this is a tricky one. This is like the kind of JavaScript knowledge that you don't necessarily like think of when you're deving in JavaScript. Isn't it something where it's like this it's like the thing that a lot of people who come from other programming languages are really surprised by, that JavaScript is single threaded, but then there's some fancy other stuff that happens behind the scenes. I kind of want to say 1. I don't really want to use my jokers, because if I use them here, I might be screwed for the rest. And I'm not sure, like, between the rest of them, like, I don't know if a joker would necessarily help me. I don't think it's 2 or 8. Like, I feel like maybe it's some weird thing with no set number, but I think I'm going to go with single threaded, so just one.
And you are correct. Yeah, you're right that a lot of people, they come to JavaScript and they're like, wait, there's only one thread. That's like, how do things work? But it's the whole event loop system that JavaScript has that allows it to be singly threaded. It's crazy.
Exactly. Okay.
Awesome. All right, here we go. We're getting to some CSS questions. If you apply margin on an inline element, which sides will it apply to? Is it only the left and right, only the top and bottom, all the sides, or none of these sides?
Margin on an inline element. Okay, I should know this because I do like, do a ton of CSS these days, but I'm not like good at it. Margin on an inline element. Which sides does it apply to? So I don't see why it would only apply to the top and bottom, only to left and right sides. Because if it's only, it definitely is only left. It definitely applies to left and right, right? You have an element that's in line, you can push it a little bit to the left or to the right. Top, does it not apply to top and bottom? Like it would push the entire line. That's my guess. So I'm inclined to say all sides, but if the person who works on front end at AlgoExpert is watching this and this is wrong, he's gonna like say I'm like terrible at CSS. I'm gonna go with all sides. Final answer.
It's only the left and right.
It is. It doesn't push them up and down.
No, so inline elements are kind of weird because they don't have like height that you can manipulate in really any way. So you can't do padding on the top or bottom of them. You can't do margin on the top and bottom. You can't set the actual height. They can only do like the left and right measurements. So like padding left, right, margin left, right, width.
I feel like this is something that I'm gonna now like be scarred by and remember for good next time that I like do display inline. And maybe this is why sometimes I'm trying to position something and I'm like, why is it not moving? Because it was display inline and I didn't know.
Either that or I'm completely wrong and you are right and I'm just messing with everybody. It's one of the two. Here we go. This one gets a little tricky here. This is some deep JavaScript knowledge. How do you create an object in JavaScript that has no prototype? Do you do object create undefined, object create null, new object undefined, or new object null?
I have no idea. Off the top of my head, I have no idea.
When I was working on my JavaScript course, I was doing a bunch of research on prototypes and stuff. So this was like, oh, this is a good question right here.
I've never even used the new object or object.create notation. I almost feel like one of them doesn't even exist, but I'm not sure if that's like a trick here. Well, new object definitely should exist, I think. So if you create an object with undefined or null, I'm maybe gonna go again. I don't want to use a joker here because I feel like it wouldn't necessarily help me. I'm still guessing either way, but maybe you go with new object null because null or undefined. I'm gonna go with one of the two new objects. I'm gonna confidently go with new object null.
Final answer?
Final answer.
Nope. You were right on the null part.
Create.
Yep. So object create, whatever you pass to it is the prototype of the thing that you create. So if you pass it null, then you have no prototype. But if you pass it undefined, it doesn't actually work because a prototype can only either be null or another object. So like undefined doesn't even work. It'll throw an error.
I see. I didn't even know that object.create was a thing.
To be honest, it's not very useful.
Yeah, I've never used object.create.
Yeah, like if you're going to be dealing with prototypes, most likely you're going to be using classes and it just does all that behind the scenes for you.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
Not doing so well. I mean, you're starting out real hot and it's going downhill here. All right, which of these true is about visibility hidden in CSS? This is another CSS one. It occupies space. Okay. And this is like, which one is true? Only one of these is true. It is removed from the layout flow. It can still be clicked on, or it is the same as opacity 0.
Only one of these is true?
Yep, only one of them is, even though they all sound pretty legit.
Jesus, okay. So visibility hidden compared to like display none. Display none is removed from the layout flow, if I'm not mistaken. but visibility hidden is not removed from the layout flow. It can still be clicked on. Can it be clicked on? I don't think it can be clicked on. Like, I don't think that if you have a button that's visibility hidden, I don't think that you can click on it. I think you can maybe like attach some sort of event listener on it or something like that. That would register maybe like keyboard clicks or things like that, but I don't think you can click on the object or the button or the element. And if you cannot click on it, assuming I'm correct here, then it would not be the same as opacity 0, I think. But it does occupy space. So my answer is going to be, again, hopefully I'm not like completely shaming myself as far as CSS goes. I think it occupies space. I think that's my final answer.
So you're saying occupy space is the thing that's true about it?
Yes.
That's correct. And
you're stressing me out with your with your like confirmation thing.
No, you're really smart by thinking of display none, because display none and opacity 0 and visibility hidden are all very similar. They just have like small differences between them. And like these bottom two, the fact that it can be clicked on and is the same as opacity 0, like that's what makes opacity 0 different than visibility hidden. Opacity 0 can be clicked on and visibility hidden can't. Otherwise, they're exactly the same.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Number 8. How many bytes is an unsigned short in C? Is it 8, 1, 4, or 2?
Oh, this is not JavaScript.
No, I told you, I'm going all over. I think this is the only question that's not JavaScript related, though.
Well, so a short. So I've never written C, so like here I'm really just kind of going to try to deduce this, but as far as I know, a short, like a typical integer would be like a fixed width 8-bit integer, and a short would be, or no, it would no. Normally an integer would be 32 bits, and then a long would be 64 bits, right?
Well, this is in bytes, so.
Oh yeah, all right. So bytes. Oh, so bytes. So bytes. Then it would be. It might actually then be 1 byte then, because it would be 8 bits for short. It's not. Okay, so that's definitely not 4 and 8. As far as my guess would be, it would not be 4 or 8, because 4 and 8 would be like 64 or 32 bits. I'm gonna go with. But no, because a 8-bit would only be. 8-bit would be very small. Ooh, unsigned short. Would it be 2? I feel like for usefulness it should be 2, right? But maybe a short is meant to be really short. It's between. My guess is it's between 1 or 2.
You can always use your 50-50 if you want.
But what if 50-50 doesn't remove what I needed to remove?
Well, then you're screwed.
you for 50-50 you like randomly remove?
Yeah, randomly remove.
Okay, let's use 50-50.
All right. Well, that helped.
Okay. So then if I'm correct, then I would go with 2 then, and I'll go with final answer.
Yep, that's 100% right.
Okay.
And you were right.
I'm glad that I did that. Okay.
Yeah, no, that was good. That was good. You were right with the integer. You know, it can't be bigger than 4 and 8, and 1 is just far too small to be useful in pretty much anything.
That's what I was gonna say. That was my reasoning, right? 1 would be like just up to 256 or 255. That would be tiny, but 2 makes sense. Okay.
Yep. Nice. That's impressive. All right, here we go. In what order are margin and padding defined in CSS? We have right bottom, left top, top bottom, left right, top right, bottom left, or left right, top bottom.
Kyle, I will confidently say left, right. No, I'm joking. I will confidently say top, right, bottom, left. Final answer.
Yep, that's correct.
Bottom left. Yep.
Nice. Yeah, I always remember it as like it spells trouble. I got that from West Boss. It just says trouble, and that's the only way I can remember it because I used to always forget.
Oh yeah, that's I guess a good mnemonic.
All right, which of the following is not a standard React hook? We have use derived state from props, use debug value, use layout effect, and used imperative handle.
What? Those are all 3 of those are React hooks?
Yep.
Here I was thinking that I knew React. Okay. I've seen none of these, but let me try to see if I can derive something. So use derived state from props, unless you're really trying to trick me, seems like something that you would have in React, right? Use layout effect, use debug value.
Yeah, these aren't very commonly used, that's for sure.
This is really tricky. I don't want to Google this. I feel like I should use this one. Use imperative handle. Use effect. Use layout effect. This is a really tricky one, Kyle. I'm gonna go with whichever the one is not a standard one. I'm gonna go with the layout effect because, again, the derived state seems kind of legit. Use debug value, I could see that as some, even though that was my first guess, that was gonna be my first guess, but I could see that as some sort of React hook. Let's go with use layout effect.
Nope, it is use derived state from props.
It is that one. Okay,
Yeah.
so you tried to trick me, and you tricked me correctly.
Because you can, in class components, there's like derived state from props, which is like a, what is it called? Like a component lifecycle method, but they never made it into
In the
a
like
hook.
old React.
Yeah, in the old React. But with hooks, you just can use, I think, use effect, and it does the exact same thing as use derived state from props.
But wait, what is use layout effect though?
So use layout effect is very similar. It works just like use effect, but it actually runs after paint. So you can use it to like get the width of things on screen, while use effect will run before paint. So it always is guaranteed to run after paint.
Okay. Damn, there's so many things that like you rarely use. Like I've never used any of these three other ones.
I'm gonna be honest, I've never used any of these three other ones either. I've maybe used layout effect like a couple times, but I've never used these other two.
All right.
All right, now we're getting into the actually hard questions here. You know, these are all the easy ones, so.
Okay. This is kind of fun though. This is the kind of question that I find more fun.
That's good. I would hope for someone that made something called AlgoExpert, you would enjoy these kind of like trivia questions. So this one is, in what order will these numbers be logged? And it's just some code, and then it's just printed left to right. So you can imagine these are all different numbers being printed. The left side is the first one, and the right side number is the last one printed.
Right. Okay, so console.log 1, so that should be the first one. Set timeout, console.log 2 with 5,000 milliseconds, 5 seconds later. So 2 is likely going to be the last one. Set timeout, console.log 3, okay. Promise.resolve 4, then console.log, and then console.log 5. So it should be 1 first, then 5. Then it should be 2 as the last one. And then the tricky one is between 3 and 4. My guess is that it's 3 first and 4 second, just because of the order they're in, but they're both kind of like, they're both instant, but still async, unless there's something that I'm not getting with like, you know, some tricky promise.resolve 4 would be like executed faster than set timeout or beforehand, but as far as I know, that's not the case. And it looks like you only have one that goes 1-5 and ends with 2. So, but you do try to trick me because you put 1-3 in 2 of them. I just don't think the 3 would execute before the 5 because it isn't a set timeout. So I don't, like, as far as I know, that would not happen. So my guess is 1-5, 4, 3, 2. I really hope I'm not wrong here.
Nope, you are correct. You were wrong, though, in the fact that the promise actually does go first. The way the event loop works is that promises kind of have like a higher priority almost. They can slot themselves into the event loop sooner than set timeout can. So it would actually execute that promise first, but very minute difference in that. But I really should have done 1-5, 3, 4, 2 as an option, because then I could have definitely got you.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think you would have gotten me there, because I'm not sure that I would have said that promise would get executed beforehand.
Yeah. This one's an interesting one. All right, here we go. Number 12. Which of the following is false? And this has to do with everything about strings. So you can kind of read them out. I'm not going to read them myself.
Okay. So new string. So I'm reading B first. New string, instance of object. My understanding is that, that might actually be the one that's false. Because new string you're using the string operator, so you would think it's an instance of string. But isn't that also an object? So, my guess is string. The first one I think is correct. Like you're comparing a new string to another string. But the fourth one seems also, seems like it could be false if the first one is correct, but I think it's also correct. This is tricky.
This one is really hard.
Instance of string. My guess is the one that's false is actually should be C because you're not using the new keyword. So string of like two like without using the new keyword on string, what are you even doing there? You're like checking the function constructor or whatever. So I think I'm gonna go with actually question 3 or the bottom left corner.
This one?
Because like if you're not using the new keyword,
you got it right
there? Yeah.
But not at all for the right reason.
Really?
Well,
okay.
Kind of. You can create a string without the new keyword by just using like string, because this fourth option here is also not using the new keyword, and it's just using string.
Oh yeah, you're right.
But I think
I didn't even notice that one.
I think the reason I honestly don't remember this one, but I think the reasoning why that this is the false one is because it will be an instance of object. I think.
Okay, so that would also make sense because like my understanding is that when you're using the constructor like new number things like that, it's always an object. That's my understanding. Like I've never even seen string, and that's why also like for instance if you do an array, right, it's an instance of object, not instance of array as far as I know. That's why you always have to do array.isArray. But I didn't know you didn't need to use the new keyword.
Yeah, and they actually behave differently whether you use the newer keyword or not. It's really strange. Something I would never use though, because I'm just going to write the string without string or new string.
Right. But I'll take the correct answer here. I'll take the win.
Yeah. All right, here we go. What does this function return if you pass in 2 as x? And this is all about like when operations occur in order of operations, essentially.
Yep. Okay, so this is another fun one. So function of x. So you pass in 2. So x is 2. X plus plus. The plus plus is going to execute after the line itself, if you will, but that means it's going to be 3. Then you do parentheses. X equals, so you are reassigning x. X equals x minus 3. So you're reassigning x to x minus 3. So that would be 3 minus 3. So you're assigning x to 0. That executes. Then you're anding it. As far as I know, when you assign something, right, JavaScript returns that something. So I think here you're trying to trick me. You're returning 0, I think. So if you're returning 0, 0 would value to false. So false, and you would not execute the plus plus x, as far as I know. And then you would return 0 minus minus. But the minus minus, does that execute afterwards? It does, but does it execute after the return statement? Yeah, it does. It does execute after the return statement. Or does it?
To be or not to be.
If I do like x equals 1 plus plus, ooh, this is tricky. I thought I knew how the plus plus works on both sides, but like here you're inside a function. I still think that you return it and then you execute it. So I'm going to go with, if you return it and then you execute it, we said you're at 0, right? Execute because you've reassigned x. So x minus minus, the minus minus would happen to minus 1, but afterwards. So I think I'm going to go with 0. 0 final answer. Okay.
There you go. Yeah,
Ooh,
I think your reasoning was correct on that.
Tricky one, though.
So for this next question, we have React strict mode helps find unintentional side effects by double invoking certain functions. Which of the following functions is not double invoked by strict mode? So we have functions passed to use state, function components, functions passed to use effect, and class component constructors. This is another tricky one.
What the? React strict mode helps find unintentional side effects by double invoking certain functions. Which of them is not double invoked? So I have no idea, but let me try to think of this like, so you could imagine that you would want to double invoke things in use state, because use state could have bugs that like are incorrectly used. Functions passed to use effect. Class component constructors. Function components. Should I try to Google this? I think I might try to Google this one because I'm not entirely sure. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, let me know when you're in position.
I have how much time?
15 seconds.
15 seconds. Okay, which of the following functions is not double invoked by strict mode? Ready? Go. Okay,
15.
React strict mode functions.
10 seconds. 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, time.
Okay.
Anything useful?
I did not find anything useful because it was showing me like old React stuff. I was on the React docs though, but I think I'm gonna go with.
This one's tough if you've never used strict mode before.
Yeah, I've never used strict mode. I think I kind of want to say function components, but I'm just wondering, am I thinking of it correctly? Like, is there a way where like use effect you would not want to double invoke functions in use effect? But I feel like that kind of makes some sense. Let's go with function components.
You're so close. It is use effect.
It is use effect because that would that actually just like cause bugs to double invoke?
Yeah, essentially, because like your use effect is your side effects, so like you want side effects to happen in use effect, so like double invoking that could cause weird things like you double post to the database or something like that. But with like state, you don't want to do any side effects when you are doing like use state. So if you double invoke that and it causes a bug, then it's like, okay, you have a problem. You shouldn't be doing side effects in use state.
That was kind of the logic that I was trying to go about, and I guess I messed up. I for function components, I just kind of randomly went there, but damn it. Okay,
final one. You got to redeem yourself. You can get this one. You've been doing good. I mean, you got 3 so far out of the 4 hardest ones. That's pretty good. This is a tricky CSS one. Which of these creates a stacking context in CSS? Is it z-index 10, opacity 1, position sticky, or order 4?
Am I allowed to ask you what a stacking context is?
I mean, it wouldn't help, but the stacking context is just like I can't even think of a good way to describe it without maybe giving it away. It's like a new hierarchy for like laying out elements on top of one another.
Well, because as far as like stacking goes, right, z-index is what allows you to kind of like stack things up. Mm-hmm. It's funny, position sticky, we just recently used that on AlgoExpert. There's a component where we used position sticky for the first time ever.
It's awesome.
I just don't know if that's what you're like, if that's a stacking context here. Opacity 1, I don't see why opacity would have anything to do with this. All right, so I feel like the sort of common sense answer would be z-index, because z-index, you're stacking things. But I feel like you're tricking me here. Like, how would this be a hard question if it's z-index? Z-index is kind of a common thing in CSS, right? As far as I know. I've never heard of order before. Position sticky, are you trying, what? This is what I should have Googled for. Okay, are you trying to trick me for this last question? Is it z-index or is it something else like position sticky?
Only one way to find out.
And why would you put z-index 10? Why not z-index 1? Why not z-index 100? For the record, for all the people watching on YouTube, I'm going to say z-index, but I realize that it might be position sticky and that I'm falling into the obvious trap. And if it's neither of those, then I give up.
You're pretty much like, well, I'm guessing this one thing, but I'm going to say it's the other 3 also, just so I'm always right.
Yes, exactly.
It was position sticky too.
Damn it. Okay, you all heard me. I said position sticky.
So stacking context, to describe it a little bit more. Essentially, a stacking context defines like a new order of stacking. So it's like a new layer, and everything on that layer is oriented based on itself, like everything else in that layer. But you like, let's say you have a stacking context A and a stacking context B. If you change the z index of an element in stacking context A, it doesn't actually matter when it comes to stacking context B, because those are two different contexts. So like A and B, they can lay out each other, like A could be over top of B or B could be over top of A. And no matter what the z index is of the item inside of another stacking context, it'll never go over top of another stacking context that's already over top of it. That's a really confusing way to put it. It's easier if you have like paper to show, but yeah. So position sticky creates a stacking context on its own. Z index on its own doesn't create one, but if you combine it with like position relative or position absolute, those two together make a stacking context.
I see. You see, I should have known that because we, like I said, we used position sticky recently in the code base, or like our front end engineer used it, and I was replicating a component, like I was copying something, and I was like, I think I need position sticky here because he used that, but I didn't really know what it was. Should have bothered to like actually really dive into it.
Yep. And then like opacity, if you actually have opacity less than 1, it creates a stacking context, because you can start to see things behind it. So I think that's why they deal with stacking context, because it starts to reveal things behind it. I'm not 100% sure why, but yeah, that's how it works. There's a lot of ways to create stacking context in CSS, and all of them are confusing.
All right. Well, what's the tally?
I'm trying to, it looks like you got 9. You got 3 here, 3 here, and 3 here. That's pretty good. 9 out of 15. That's maybe one of the highest scores out of anyone so far.
Is it? I feel like I'm like disappointed in some of them, but like I guess I'm happy that I got correct all the function ones. Those are like the ones that I feel like I should know how those JavaScript internals work. CSS was brutal though.
Yeah,
and the
CSS
React
is
stuff.
tough. Yep. No, I mean, honestly, you did pretty good. Like, I think maybe the highest score before this was 8. And if you count this last one, you could just say that you got like a 9.5, because you were like, it's either one of these.
we'll count that last one. I'll take a 9.5.
At 9.5. Awesome. Well, with that, I just want to say like a huge thank you for coming out and doing this with me. It was a ton of fun. I really enjoyed bringing this back. It's been so long since I've done it last time.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem.